So I'd like to talk today with I'm so sorry. I'm not quite sure how to say your name. Can you tell me how to say your name?
Yeah, it's Felippe.
Felippe, like that? Felippe?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
Felippe.
actually
That's
funny
that's right.
because my father's name is Philip, and it wasn't the normal spelling of Philip. And whenever, in the days before cell phones, when people would call your house and it was a landline, right? We would always know when it was some telemarketer or somebody calling because they would say his name, Philip, like yours. They would say, "Oh, is Felipe there?" And we'd be like, "Nope,
Yeah.
sorry, nobody lives here by that name. Goodbye." And so it's really funny to have that be your name. And so I'm going to do my best to say it correctly because names are difficult.
All right.
You want to talk today about a certain difficulty you're having, but first, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us what you do, where you're originally from, where you're living now, all of that stuff, because we want to know you better.
All right. So thanks so much, Bianca. And so my name is Felipe, and I live in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. Right now, what I'm doing is I have a program where I help people put together virtual audience experiences on Zoom. And originally, graduated as a designer, and then I became an engineer working in software companies, and then I'm kind of working with both being the designer, motion designer, and software engineer, building this new venture online.
So you're still in Rio right now, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm still in Rio. That's correct.
Could you tell us a little bit about your biggest challenge right now and what you'd like to work on today?
So basically, I'm at a level where I can communicate well in English. I can get understood and I can understand. So it's hard for me, from my perspective, to be able to see what other words that the accent that I'm not doing that I could improve. So I would need a little bit of help in order to identify what is it that I can improve. So for me, the hardest thing is that since I got to a point where I cannot see where I can improve. So I know that I have an accent that can be improved, but I can't tell what it is.
A lot of people are in kind of the same boat. Is there anything else that you want to tell me before we start?
I would love for you to interrupt me, actually, so that I can get an opportunity to see what is it I can improve.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Some people, their style is they like to be interrupted and they can handle it and they can go with the flow. And some people, they really need to just focus on what they're saying and then see a list
Yeah.
at the end. You know what I mean? So that's really good that you told me.
Yes. I know just two words on the top of my mind, which are world and favorite. And I don't know if how well I'm doing those.
Great. So you already have some examples there. WORLD. It sounds like it's RLD. And the other word you mentioned, which is what we would call very low frequency, it's not a very common word for most people. It takes the word FAVORITE and then it adds an ED at the end. So that complicates things. It's not a very common word, but it might be an important word for you. Consonant clusters, it's not vowels, we're thinking about consonant clusters, so more than one consonant together. And thinking about how we connect our speech, sometimes this happens between words, and sometimes it happens inside of words. So you might notice the same problem in, for example, let's take your WORLD, for example. Maybe you have a word that ends in an R, and the next word begins with L or D. You might find that that's the same problem. We call it blending. So in our connected speech, or just in the word, we have consonant clusters. Does that make sense how I'm explaining what the problem is that I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about what we mean by blending. You already do it. For example, the word blending, right? Say the word blending.
Blending.
Say the word cluster.
Cluster.
So we had a B and an L, bl, bl. We had a C and an L, cl, cl, right? So it's not that you can't blend your consonant clusters. It could be that it depends on the specific sound. Tell me if in Portuguese, this WORLD, this word, in Portuguese, please confirm, you don't have the same R as us. You maybe don't have the same kind of L exactly.
No. We have an accent from generally interior that will have this accent, but very particular to a specific region of Brazil, and I'm not from there, so I'm not used to it at all.
Exactly. So it could be regional accent differences, right? Or it could be language differences. It could be that you don't have trouble making clusters, but it could be just specific sounds. And once they're in that cluster, then they're doubly difficult. So that's what I think is a thing here. I've got a whole bunch of things that we can check first, right? So depends on the sound, but it also depends on what about the sound. Like maybe it's just always R's for you. But I don't think that's the case. It might be another combination, not just R's. So I've got a list. I'm going to model, and then I want you to repeat. I'm going to say what it is, and then I'm going to do the cluster 2 times, and then I'm going to do an example word, and I want you to copy me. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to check a whole bunch of different clusters to see where the problems might be. We're going to start with a P and an L together. Played. Your turn.
Played.
Can you do the
Should I
sound
do
first,
the
the cluster? Yeah.
Yeah.
Played. Again.
Played.
There you go. Okay, so something else that it might be, we have to keep our eye on, is something we call voicing. So if you put your hand on your throat and you say, for example, my name, Bianca, baby, basketball, you should feel a vibration here. Can you say some words with the letter B? Are you
Bianca.
feeling
Yeah.
vibration? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's a B with 2 bumps, right? And then we've got a P. That one is the P. Exactly. It should be unvoiced, we call that, right? So air only, no vibration. So take a second and do So you were doing blade, right? And that would be like a knife. A knife has a blade. So do that one again. Played.
Played.
Ah, perfect. Exactly. So keep that in mind for the next one. I'm going to do a P and an R together. Practice.
Practice.
Just worry about the P and R together. Practice.
Practice.
There you go. And I can hear it. Yeah, the P and the R sound good. Actually, your R is really like a really good American R. So it might be sometimes when you blend the R's with different sounds, like the R, the L and the D on that word. And then I also noticed the T and the C or a K sound, right? There might be something going on there. So we'll come back to that. Let's do another couple of things to take a look. We've got an S and an L. Copy me. I'm going to do blend, and then the word, right? So
Okay.
slow.
Slow.
Exactly. Okay, so that sounds good. It sounds like your L is pretty good. And I don't know if you know this, but we have 2 kinds of L's in English. I don't know if you have this in Portuguese. We have what we call a light L and a dark L. And I know, for example, in Russian, they have hard and soft L. Do you guys have 2 kinds of L's or just 1 L?
No, it's just one L.
Okay. And how does it sound in Portuguese if you were speaking it with a regular, normal accent with your family?
L.
In a word. Give me a word.
L. In Português? And esqueci o anel.
So
I
that sounds
forgot
like
the
that
ring.
L is at the back, right? At the end, right?
Okay.
So that's where we would have our other kind of L. So it sounds like, in English at least, this SL in slow, right? There's some differences in the lips, I think, of how you do it in Portuguese. I think you do some rounding on your lips, so it's
Yeah.
There's something else going on in the lips, but
Yeah.
your tongue position, I think, is pretty much the same for what we would call regular L. So, and that's why when you said slow, that was very nicely done, right? But look at the next example we're going to have. We're thinking of the S and the M together, but this word happens to have an L at the end as well. So I want to see how your dark L sound is too. Does that make sense? How we have different kinds of L's based on where they are? Okay, so next one I'm going to do is S and M. Smile.
Smile.
There we go. So you have the good S and an M, right? All the ones we've done so far, P and L, P and R, S and L, S and M. And then we can come back to that dark L at the end. But in general, when you're doing an L in English, any kind of L, make sure that your lips aren't doing anything, right? So just unround your lips if you
Okay.
can, relax those, right? So that could be any consonant where there's an L, your lips might be doing something and that might be impeding that nice transition. Does that make sense? How I'm
Yeah.
saying that? Okay,
Okay.
cool. So let's keep going then. All right, I've got a couple more. So first one is a G as in the word go, and then that L again. So gl, gl, glass.
Glass.
Yeah, and maybe I wasn't doing that well enough. You noticed, maybe, that I was sticking in a little between those two consonants. I want to blend them a little bit better. So let me try again. Ready? Gl, gl, glass.
Glass.
Exactly, right? So we can take out that little in there. And in case you don't know the name of that, it's called schwa. It's probably the most important sound in American English. So we don't want glass, right? We want glass. So sometimes consonant clusters are not as good as they could be because it's hard. It's hard to do those transitions between consonants, right? My tongue is moving, my lips are moving, maybe my teeth and my jaw. I've got to coordinate. I've got to think about the voicing in my throat. So sometimes it's easier to give ourselves a little time and stick in a little schwa there, right? So in that case, we want to take it out. We want to blend better. This next one is going to be really hard because I think in Portuguese, you have an N like us, you have a G like us, right? You have a T like us, you have an H like us. For example, when we have T and H together in English, we don't say t-h, right? We say th or th. When we have N and G together, we don't say ng, we say something a little bit different. The sound is different than the component letters, let's say. So first I want to check this sound individually. So not n, but mm. Can you first give me an NG sound? There we go. Let's say at the end of a word, you have an NG ending. Super common. And then the next word begins with an L. Also super common. Put those together. I'm going to do the combination, but then I'm going to say a short sentence. And I want you to copy the combination and the sentence. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I'm going to do she's moving little by little. You try.
No.
And the sentence would be, she's moving little by little.
She's moving little by little.
That was awesome. You can feel the back of your tongue releasing to the L. That's a really hard one. If you can do that one, you're going to be golden. So we've got a couple more. And then I want to get to those two words, and we'll tell you some tips and tricks, and we'll see if there's any questions you have left. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So I think your G is fine. Now we're going to look at that R again. Great. You go.
Great.
No problem there, no problem. All right, last one. Take that NG sound again, and then go to an R, right? And we said both of which are very different in Portuguese. So, Give me just the sound first. Yeah, excellent. Now let's do a sentence. She's playing right now.
She's playing right now.
Awesome. That's awesome. So now we've done a lot of checks here. And if you have anything else, any other specific combinations that you can think of, right, take note of that. Go ahead.
I think the THR that you said at some point, that's the one that I struggle a lot too.
Exactly. And that's super common in English because TH is really common and R is super common too. And especially we've got words that we call them function words, right? So you can't get through the day without a function word. Words like this, that, these, those, right? And yours is not it's not voiced, but yours is a content word. So the skill is super important. But this word specifically, it's got the unvoiced version. Why is this difficult right now? It's the transitions. And I think that's where your difficulty lies, because I've just heard a lot of specific sounds and they've all been perfect. So now let's go back up to your list of words and let's put that other word on the list with a TH and an R. That might also include words like three, right?
Yes.
Right? That same blend. They're not going to be super common, but it's an important skill. So let's look at these words that you mentioned, and then I have a couple more to add to the list.
Okay.
First one. All right, I've heard your R. I've heard your L. I think your D is fine. Da 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 da. It's voiced, right? Were. So now, what's the problem? Transitioning between those three. So I'm gonna take a minute and think about what my tongue is doing. We said that at least in English, I need to not round my lips for the L. So I want to think of where my tongue position is, and I'm going to put my tongue in the back for the R. Just do that with me. Feel how the tip is curling. In this case, in case you didn't know, we have two kinds of R's as well. So the R we just did, we were curling the tip, but I want you to think of something else. I want you to think of the sides of your tongue and see if they're touching the molars. Because in this case, our R comes after a vowel. Exactly. See if you can feel Can you feel that? Yeah, you can feel the sides touching your molars, right? It's called a molar bunched R in English, right? That comes after a vowel. So here we've got not just any R, but what we call a vocalic R. So it's after a vowel. Make sure the sides of your tongue are touching. So now I've got sides of my tongue are touching, right? My tip is curled. And then I go up to my L. Earl. Just do R and L. Earl. Oh, just the R and the L. Earl. Like early, for example. Earl. Yep. Make sure your lips are not rounded. Earl. Yeah, you can take your fingers and kind of put them at the corner of your mouth just to make sure. Earl. Now, because your example is really difficult, actually. It's got 3 consonants in it. So we've got the first 2. Now we have to add the other side. So let's take an L and a D. This is a particularly difficult one. It's actually kind of a third L. We talked about a regular L and a dark L, and this one is called a lateral L. So my tongue, it's in the front, right? Right behind my teeth. You can feel it. But what about a D, right? A D is D. I'm just going to pull it back ever so slightly on the bump. And then the side, old. Then I'm going to explode it. So see if you, yeah, exactly. Old. And you might do that in words like old. She's very old. There you go. So you've got both. You can do R and L like early. You can do L and D like old. So let's put them all together. Old. There you go. Earled. Exactly. Earled. There you go. Earled. Now stick an RW and we'll be fine. World. Perfect. Awesome. Giving you a virtual high five. Excellent. World.
That was great.
World.
I understood. I know what to practice now.
Exactly.
I could see very clearly what were. Awesome. It kind of helped me to think about early and old as well.
Yeah, because we found out that you didn't have trouble with most of those sounds. You didn't have trouble combining most of those sounds, right? You've already done all of them. It just happens to be here. Boom. English has smashed these 2 together. It's not you. It's the language for sure. So let's try one. Awesome. It's an animal. It's an animal that I don't know if you have in Brazil. We have them in Mexico. I'm in Mexico. Yeah. They're small. They like nuts. They climb up trees. Do you know the animal that I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
What is it?
Squirrel.
There you go, squirrel. Exactly. So many people, they say, oh, I can never say this word. I'll just say chipmunk instead, right? But you're doing the same thing, squirrel.
I was feeling that. I was trying to give you time to say the name, but if you wanted me to say it,
I wanted to see if
we're
you knew
glad
it.
you got
Yes,
it.
because some people will avoid it because it's so difficult. Exactly. But see, it's the same skill. It's the R and the L together.
Yeah.
But it's a little more tricky because we've got that silent E in there, right? So some people think they're supposed to say the E or they just want to say the E because it makes it easier, but it's the same thing. So if you can say world, you can say squirrel. And in fact, you can add it together.
Squirrel.
I've got a squirrel outside my
Why?
house. I just call him squirrel. And so if I add a word that starts with D after that, I'm doing the same thing. Squirrel didn't come today. Give me that sentence.
Squirrel didn't come today.
Perfect, right? You've got your R, your L, your D all together. Now you can connect those wherever you find them. Awesome. Let's look at the second word, right? It's weird. Tell me without the ED, right? Tell me just with the E. How should that?
Favorite.
There you go. So I know that it's not any one of those sounds. Say it again and put it in a sentence. Like what's your favorite flavor of ice cream, for example?
Okay, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Yeah. Tell me. What's your favorite flavor of ice
Oh,
cream?
okay. So my favorite flavor of ice cream is pistachio.
There you
Pistachio.
go. You just said favorite flavor. So you combined a T and an F there, and ending T's are a nightmare. We have a whole thing about that. There's all different sounds, but yours sound good. So I know that you can do all the sounds. I know that you can blend a T with other sounds. The problem is, it's not a very common word to put in either the past tense or an adjective with an ED. So there's three ways. If anything ends in an ED, it could be a verb in the past, it could be an adjective, right? I have three options. The spelling is the same. ED is always the same. But these EDs could be, number one, it could sound like a T sound. Washed. I washed.
Washed. Washed.
I washed the dishes, for example, right? That's a T sound, right? It's unvoiced. We just talked about voicing.
Washed.
Washed, right? I shouldn't feel any vibration there.
Yeah.
Here's another one. I'm going to take the verb want. She wanted. I've got a T sound, and then an I sound, and then a D sound. So I'm not voiced, and then I'm voiced. Let me do that again. Tid. Tid. Wanted. Do it again.
Tid. Wanted.
There you go. Wanted. That's the same
Wanted.
as yours up here. So favorited. Try that one.
Favorited.
And get the last part voiced. Not tit, but tid.
Tid. Favorited.
There you go.
Favorited.
Okay, I want you to think of a sentence and make a sentence with that word in it so that we can do now more blending. We've got tid. And now let's think and try to have the next word start, hopefully, with a consonant. See if you can do that.
It start with a consonant. Oh, okay. The next word.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And even if it's a silly sentence, it doesn't have to make sense.
Okay. So it won't make sense, but this is a sentence that I will say.
Okay.
What was the participant? No.
Use your target word here. Favorited.
Yeah. I favorite a participant.
Okay, but that's only the word favorite. Remember, you have the word favorited here. Do you remember the context where you had this one? Okay.
Yeah.
It's the same sentence.
It was something that I did to myself. I created a feature on my software that's called Favorite. So I had to explain to people how to use, and I find myself having to talk about it in the past, and then I was screwed.
That makes sense, right? Again, not a normal use, right? But with social media these days, right? You can like something, you can post things, right? These are not, we're using these verbs in a different way now. So I'm going to say, and I don't know if this is the right usage of the word, but it's just an example sentence. Does that work? All right. Yeah. So I'm going to do a t, I, d, and then my lips are going to come together with the M. So I'm going to say it. She favorited my post.
She favorited my post.
Perfect. Exactly. Tidmy. Tidmy, right? Absolutely. She
My
favorited my post. So I want to take that blend and add a little complexity. So I've got one more example. Since we're talking about ed endings, right? We talked about endings that end in t, endings that end in id. And what about just D sound? Da 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 da. These are actually the most common ones, but I don't think you have any problem with them. I'm going to take the verb grab and I'm going to put it in the past. And I'm doing this because your consonant clusters are here, right? I see the letter E, but it's silent. So I'm going to go take the word grab, which is voice, and I'm going to try to do a B and a D together. Bd, bd. Give me just that consonant cluster. Oh, it's a B. B like my name, Bianca. Bd, bd.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing. You're doing the front end of the word, maybe the G and the R, but I'm just talking about the back. Bd, 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 bd. And you might hear I'm making it easy. I'm still sticking in that little schwa sound. Bd. Let's take away the there. Bd, bd, bd. It's hard. Exactly. In context, it's actually going to get easier. It doesn't seem like it, but it will. So we're going to do b, and then d, and then m again, right? Bdm, bdm, bdm. She grabbed my bag.
She grabbed my bag.
That's exactly right. Try to get rid of the schwa. You did this. Grabbed my. And we want grabbed my.
She grabbed mine.
Exactly. She grabbed my. Bdm, bdm, bdm. As fast as we can get those clusters. Exactly. That's better, right? Yes, because I can see it's not really your tongue. It's not the jaw. It's not the lips, right? We said voicing is a thing to think about. But it's just these specific combinations where the transitions are just difficult, right? You mentioned a third word, and that's a good one. But let's take the one that's easier, and I'm going to say them both. Through, throughout. Through, throughout, right? So I've got a TH and an R. Before you try it, let me explain what your mouth should feel. You've got a good TH. What's happening with the TH? My tongue is out a little bit, and there's friction. And I'm pushing air out. But then I have to keep the friction going, but I have to pull my tongue in to that R where the tip is curled. Thur. 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 So I'm pulling my tongue, and I'm still pushing air out. Exactly. Thur. 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 So I can see that your lips are kind of getting in the way. What you're doing now is almost like an F and an R, like free, right? That's my bottom lip and my top teeth. But don't let them touch, right? Instead, get your tongue in there. Thur. Take your finger and hold your lip down. Thur. Thur. Does that make sense?
Thur.
Yes, exactly. Thur. Thur. Exactly. Your bottom lip wanted to help out here, but then we ended up with an F sound, right? So through. Take your finger. Through. Again. Yes, exactly. Through. And you're going to have a hard time with the ooh sound there, but we don't care about that vowel. We're thinking about the consonant cluster, right? So get your lip out of the way. Through.
It's difficult.
It is difficult, yeah. Yeah.
Through.
Yes, there you go. Through. So taking into account that you're pushing air out as you're trying to pull in your tongue at the same time, right? That's the difficulty, right? I know you could do all of these sounds in isolation, but putting them together sometimes creates something. Luckily, like we said, this THR combination, it's not super common, but you did choose some words here. So we've got through, throughout. Give me both. Through, throughout.
Through, throughout.
There you go. Through, throughout. Perfect.
Through,
Perfect.
throughout.
All right, let's review these through.
Throughout. Yeah.
I'm going to say the 3 that you mentioned earlier, and then I'm going to add a couple to the list, right? So, number 1, after me, world.
World.
Perfect. Favorited.
Favorited.
Last one, throughout.
Throughout.
Absolutely awesome. Very nice. I have a couple more that I've added to the list that I heard you say earlier today. And one is when you're introducing yourself, so probably pretty common for you, and it's not you, it's English. I can't even say it. It's not you, it's English. It's not purely a consonant cluster, but there's something else that happens here. We can call this a bit of a bonus. For example, if I say the word watch, right? I'm wearing a watch on my hand. That would be a CH sound as in chocolate, right? Ch, watch.
Okay.
Easy enough, right? A lot of languages have that. But in English, when I get a T next to a U sound or a Y sound, it ends up sounding like ch, as in chocolate. You're doing til, tu. In this case, it's virtual. There we go. Virtual. Virtual. You do that 100 times in a row, guaranteed you're going to say ch, virtual. Ch.
Virtual.
Yeah. Pretend you're saying chocolate in the middle.
Okay.
Virtual.
Virtual.
There we go.
Virtual.
So we did t is in the front. Ch is slightly back. Ch. And on the side. Ch. Can you feel the difference?
Virtual. Virtual.
Exactly.
Virtual.
Does that make sense now?
Okay.
The feeling, right?
I think it was the same virtual. That's what I was saying. Virtual.
I don't think there was a y in there. Yeah.
But virtual is wrong, right?
Exactly. Without the y, it's incorrect. Nobody's going to say it that way. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's some people who are going to say it that way.
Yeah.
But we're concerned with what do most people say most of the time. Don't forget your y in there. Virtue, y, as in you. Virtual. When I'm having my lunch, I chew my food, right? Chew, right? Virtual. So think of chewing.
Virtual.
Yeah. If you like mnemonic devices, think of chewing on the internet.
Yeah.
Virtual. That might help you. Yeah. So get your ooh in there, right? Not a consonant, but it's a funny thing that happens to that T, that consonant, when it happens to be with a y in there, right? And then there's one more thing, and I have an F, and then a T, and then a W together, right? We just mentioned how we've got consonants and we just linked it with a vowel and made a ch sound. And now we have vowels, but we have 2 sounds called semi-vowels, right? So W's and Y's, we call them semi-vowels. They kind of act like vowels. They like to play for the consonant team sometimes. And so here we've got like 2 consonants, an F and a T, and then this kind of half a consonant. So I've got f, which I just saw you do, f, with your teeth and your lips. So my teeth and my lips are busy, and then I can put my tongue up and do my T. Perfect. But then my lips have to come back into play and do the W. So I have lips with my F, tongue with my T, and then lips back again with my W. So ftw. Exactly. Software. There you go.
Software.
Perfect.
Software.
There you go. Exactly. So when you know the words, you can decide if it's an error, I don't know how to fix this, or a mistake, I know how to fix this. Now, you know how to fix it. And now you can just drill. Now you just need muscle memory, right? So drilling, drilling, drilling. Add words to this list, right? As many as you need to, and then break it down. And you can say, okay, what's the problem here? Why is this difficult, right? Is it that the sound itself is difficult, or it's the combination that's difficult, or I'm just not paying attention to what my lips and things do, right? Those are the things that you can quickly do to kind of make it easier for you. And we said that there's an ed ending. There's also another one. It's an s ending. So if you have any verb that ends in S, which is pretty common, or any plural, in fact, right? You can say, for example, I've got 3 bottles of water. And that's a letter S, but it's the Z sound, right? Bottles. So I've got a final S. And you might be then, like we said, connected speech, you might be then blending that with another word. I have 3 bottles there, bottles there, bottles there, right? So there's an S ending. We didn't discover that today, but it's something to think about. Is the S ending S or Z or is?
Okay.
S or Z or is. So since you mentioned the ed thing, I want you to think about that S thing as well. And I want to give you a little poster that I made specifically for S endings and ed endings. And I want you to think about how things are ending and how they're being blended, right? So here are the things I want you to think about. Number 1, drilling words, right? Making lists of words. Lists of words. There's an S at the end, right? Lists of words. Drilling them when you know what the problem is. If you don't know the problem, you can ask me. And then we can figure that out. And then number 2, at the bottom of your list, I have a whole, let's say, document of S-ended words and ED-ended words that you can practice. Drill, drill, drill. Repetition is key. Thinking about how your tongue is moving with your lips and your jaw also. As we said, what's the voicing got to do with this? Which sounds are voiced? Which ones are unvoiced? That can reduce the clarity. And then any specific sounds that just might be difficult for you in general, right? Like that NG sound or getting a good American R. We did 3 types of L's today, right? And there's one more technique that I want you to try. But first, are there any other words you'd like to add to the list? Anything you can think of right now? Any other specific questions?
No, I think there. I really love it. I want to practice the ones that you gave me. Yes.
Awesome. So I want you to think of one more thing too, how you're framing these things. So we did a few sentences, right? I'm gonna go back to the sentence that we talked about with your word favorited. And then we said, oh, I'm blending that ed sound with the M in the next word. She favorited my post. So there's a technique you can always use to make life a little bit easier. And you know how in American English we kind of smash all of our words together, right? We have a lot of connected speech. You can use that to your advantage, right? Tid my post. So if you think of, instead of the words are she, favorited, my, post, stop thinking of the spaces between the words, and instead you're going to do what's called rebracketing. So instead, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take the word favorite, and I'm going to stop my word there, and then I'm going to pretend like the whole word is 2 words, favorite, and then I'm going to pretend my second word is tid my. She favorited my post. Does that make sense? How we can regroup them?
Yeah.
Okay, you try. Give me the same sentence.
Okay. She favored to mine. She favored to mine.
Now the whole sentence.
She favored my post.
Exactly. She favorited my post. And the more you can kind of re-bracket these difficult things, you can regroup them in a way that's easier for you, right? And your mind can see it in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I love that technique.
Awesome. So that's called re-bracketing. So before we say goodbye today, tell me, what was the most helpful thing for you today?
I think I've been struggling with both of these words a lot, the both world and favorited. And I could never understand. I tried everything. I tried asking other accent codes as well.
Really?
But yes, and I could only say it super fast, but actually because I think I was not hearing myself and it just sounded like I was doing it right. But you were able to explain to me very slowly what the sounds actually sound like when I'm doing it fast. So I felt more in control of what I was saying and what I was supposed to do. So, for example, the word world, you give example of the early and the old. So this it went from my mind. So this was very, very helpful. And the favorite hit as well. I was doing something like favorited. I don't even know, something like that. So was very, very helpful. And understand the R as well. The two different R's that was something very, very new to me. It was very helpful to have these these mouth representation that I have. It's super quick to understand what we're saying. So it was really,
Awesome.
really cool.
Yay! So it sounds like a lot of things you benefited from today. That's fantastic. So if you have any other questions like that, just so you know, every week on Wednesdays I have free office hours. So anybody can join, and I have that on my Discord server. So I'm going to send you the link to that. And if you ever have any list of words and you don't know if you're doing them right, or you just want to check, or you think you are doing them right and you want to check, or you have no idea, you can always
Awesome.
come on Wednesdays, right? Wednesday office hours on
Awesome.
my Discord. So thank you, Felippe, for coming today and being a
Thank
part of
you,
this.
Bianca.
Yay! Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to add for today?
The moment that you just said the word virtual, I just figured, oh my God, this is the most important word that because I speak every time. I have an upcoming masterclass called the Virtual Masterclass, the Virtual Audience Masterclass. And I've been saying it virtual all the time.
Yeah.
And this got me thinking. For example, it was very hard for me to tell you, and this is one of those, but I didn't know. It was very hard for me to tell you, but I do a lot of videos. So if I had done like a copy and paste of the transcription and some word cloud that put the words that are most big, you could see and tell me, okay, so say that and that and that, and then you figure it, okay, so let's work on that because this is going to be very impactful for you. You see that a
Exactly.
lot.
Exactly. You're not going to see maybe a lot of squirrels in the park, right? But for you, you have your own high frequency words, we could say in your own little world. And so people need to decide, like, what are the most important words for me? I can tell you what the most important words in English are, right? But I don't know what's most important for you, and that's going to give you, the most confidence, I would say, and clarity. And if I don't know if you use any kind of like transcription service, but if you notice it's correcting the same word again and again, put that on your list, right? If you know that the AI can't understand it, probably that should go on your list. You know what I mean? So keep that list,
Yeah.
and hopefully I'll see you in
Awesome.
office hours.
Yes.
Awesome. Cool.
Of course.
All
Yeah,
right.
it's awesome. Thank you,
Well,
Bianca.
thanks again for coming, Felippe, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Okay. Much,
Exactly.
Bianca.
See you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.